My name is Charlie, and it's a pleasure to have you riding with me today in London. Every Sunday I take a different route through London. In this case we've got the 38 bus route. Now I can't get in here, look, because I don't own one of these properties. If you own one of these properties in Victoria Square, you get a code to this bike lock. Some kind woman let me into this actually, because I wanted to get a better look at this lovely statue. Now this, believe it or not, is a life-size statue of the Queen Victoria, and this is by the artist Catherine Anne Lagoule, and it was put up in 2007, so it looks a lot older than it is, but it would be something that you put up really to I'm sure it kind of increases the house price, this idea that something's got heritage and history. And of course this square was developed as part of the expansion of the area after Queen Victoria moved in at Buckingham Palace, straight over there. This area was actually open marshland, and it wasn't until a builder Thomas Cubitt got his plans commissioned after Queen Victoria moved in, because what was quite a rough area of marshland suddenly became a very, very desirable place to live. And as I show you these lovely, lovely white 26 houses on this square, all of which are Grade 2 listed, you can start to see how it still is really an aspirational place to live. These houses were constructed in 1838 to 1840 to celebrate the beginning of Queen Victoria's reign. Now, people always want to know about property prices. Now, I've been looking on Zoopla. Unfortunately, I haven't made enough tips to move in here yet. But the average price of a property here is about 1.4 million. I mean, that's the average. That might sound like a lot, but that's actually 75% down on the 2016 peak of 5.5 million. It's very, I'd say, epic and cinematic, this square, and probably explains why it was used for the 1991 film Howard's End. So, what a lovely little kind of oasis of calm in a very busy central London area, and we're about to head into that much busier zone now as I take you down the street, down Victoria Square, onto Buckingham Palace Road. And you can see that here, this house, Buckingham Palace Road. Quite self-evidently, we are just a stone's throw from the palace, which is that way. But we're not going to the palace today. You can just about work out the Queen's Mews there, which is where all her horses are kept. So Grosvenor Gardens is the gardens that you're just about to see through those railings. It's French design, and it was officially opened as London's French Garden in 1952, when the French ambassador dedicated it to Marshal Foch. So you can just about see through the trees here. These lovely London plane trees. We see Marshal Foch standing proudly on his horse. He was a great ally during the Second World War, and the whole idea of these gardens is that it's supposed to represent French and English relations. And actually, you know from the detail, because if I show you this hut here, this is a gardener's hut that is decorated with shells. Can you see that? And those shells are both from the beaches of Normandy and the beaches of the UK as well. So here we go. Did you know that? You must know about French gardens that they have a very organised style. An English garden is known for its beautiful chaos, and the French garden is known for these very kind of angular lines, the very neat fleur-de-lis pattern in the middle. It's all about being kind of symmetrical and ordered. And you can, when you really start to notice, you see that is what's happening with the design of this one. Look, there's our bus. I'm going to put my mask on. Hiya. We're about to see as we go over Hyde Park Corner roundabout. Look at that. That is not Marble Arch. Many people mistake it for Marble Arch, but it is the Wellington Arch, the Duke of Wellington Arch, and it holds the largest bronze statue on the top there. Hyde Park Corner roundabout, by the way, is the busiest roundabout in central London, and if we were to go down the street past the New Zealand Memorial there on the right, we would be going down Piccadilly. We are going to go down Piccadilly through to Piccadilly Circus, so we'll get some great shots of Piccadilly Circus. The Hard Rock Cafe there on the left was the first Hard Rock Cafe in the world. It's a lovely story about Eric Clapton being a regular there, and one day he went in and someone was sat at his regular seat, so he brought in his guitar, put it above the seat and said, "This is Eric Clapton's seat, only I sit there," and apparently began this whole tradition of rock memorabilia at the Hard Rock Cafe all around the world. Green Park on the right, lovely Green Park. Is a lovely park adjacent to Buckingham Palace. You've got the lovely Ritz Hotel coming up on the right, which is the famous 5-star hotel that features in many films. Margaret Thatcher died there, spent her last years there. The Adams brothers that then owned it gave her a suite to live in to see out her last few years, and apparently sometimes she could be seen playing the piano in the lobby. See, Piccadilly Circus is like the Times Square of London, and it's really very much associated with theatres. Off Piccadilly Circus you've got the London's West End. London, I'm very proud to say, has the highest concentration of theatres anywhere in the world, so we beat New York there, even though we're a slightly smaller city. Piccadilly, you might have kind of think that's a strange word. It comes from Piccadilles. Piccadilles, well, Piccadilles, if you imagine William Shakespeare, can you imagine him with a big ruff around his neck? That's a Piccadille. Piccadilles were named after Thomas Piccadille, and Piccadilly Circus was a famous place where you could buy Thomas Piccadille's Piccadilles. So there you go, now you know why. Circus just comes from the Latin for circle, circus. So don't expect any monkeys. Well, Fortnum & Mason is the Queen's official department store. This is, well, her grocers really. It has a royal warrant like a lot of the posh shops do. But it is said that when you see the Queen and you have afternoon tea with the Queen, it's Fortnum & Mason tea that you're drinking. It's actually a really beautiful store. If you come to London, I'll take you there for a cuppa. Hatchard's book just next to it there. Again, a royal appointment to the royal household. That's where Prince Charles and the Queen buy their books. Can you see Piccadilly Circus? I'm going to show you the statue of Eros right now by zooming in. How about that? Piccadilly Circus. If you say it's like Piccadilly Circus here, you mean it's really busy because there's traffic going on all directions, and this is where a lot of people meet before going out to catch a play or going out for dinner. It's a lovely meeting point, particularly under the statue of Eros. It said that if you were to propose under there, you'll have love forevermore. So look out for someone on bended knee. Shaftesbury Avenue, you're going to see how many theatres you can spot as we go down, and we look at all these beautiful theatres showing all iconic musicals. Les Miserables, one of my favourites and one of the longest running, is straight ahead between the two heads. If you went down that street, you'd get to Soho. Soho is named after a hunting crawl. Henry VIII again, he pops up a lot. His hunting call, Soho, a little bit like tally-ho, was used when this area was open fields, and he would go hunting around the area. But the interesting fact about Soho that relates to this tour, no buses. Can you see the reflection in the window there? What do you spot? Red lanterns. What does that tell us? Well, that tells us that just about here, to our right, is the entrance to Chinatown. Chinatown's a lovely place at the moment because they've kind of got a street party look with loads of tables outside, because that's the only place you can eat. So it's a really, really lovely place to be at the moment, Chinatown. It has, as you look carefully, the street signs in English, but also underneath written in Chinese. Still an active Chinese population in Chinatown. It's quite small, but you do see lots of Chinese people, Chinese supermarkets where they only speak Chinese, and banks where all the signs are in Chinese. Harry Potter the play is playing up here on the left. Very popular play in 2 parts. Very hard to get tickets at first. Probably will be again when it reopens, but apparently very good, even if you don't like Harry Potter. What was I saying about Soho? Soho, yeah. Soho is one of the only places in central London where there are no buses. And think about it, if you've ever been to Soho, there's something really lovely and village-like about it. People sitting outside having conversations that you can overhear. Why is that? No noisy buses anywhere. And I think that's what really makes it quite special. You can see the bus is too busy. I tried to choose the Sundays because I like to think that buses aren't going to be that busy there. We have got a few passengers at the back there, but the front all to ourselves. You can imagine you're sitting right here with me. Tottenham Court Road Station coming up on the left. The Dominion Theatre on the right. Who wants an umbrella? Because if you do want an umbrella, it's a very useful thing in London. I recommend this shop. This is a perfect example of Victorian shop front design. It's grade 2 listed, and it's for all your umbrella, parasol and walking stick needs. We'll get closer and you'll see exactly what I mean. It's the sort of thing that's used in films quite a lot, just because it's like being in Victorian London. Look at that, it's like a black and white postcard. Established in 1830. Whew. You know, the 38 is one of the most frequent routes in London. In a weekday, non-lockdown, every 2 minutes is the 38. Really, really frequent route. So much so that I didn't even look up a bus time today. Sicilian Avenue is one of my favourite places in this area. A really beautiful design, sort of a shopping mall with the lovely old-fashioned Victorian shop fronts. And we're off. Quite quiet around here in the area of Holborn. Holborn, not Holborn. The L is silent. You'll hear that when you hear the announcer say, "This stop, next stop is Holborn." That's how you say it. That's how you sound like a proper Londoner. Call it the proper name. And we're in the Holborn area now. Lots of media agencies. A big one, Mediacom, is just there. And Unite the Union, the headquarters for Unite the Union organisation. And we're going to get off Theobald's Road, which is this main road. And we're just going to go and finish the tour in a lovely square. Let's take in Red Lion Square Gardens, which I'm pleased to say are open right now. You can see with Red Lion Square, we're now in the London borough of Camden. 32 boroughs in London, Camden being one of them. So the Red Lion Square Gardens were opened in 1860. So again, one of these really great initiatives to give green space to the public, which was really a Victorian aim. We take kind of parks and green spaces for granted in London a little bit. You can even hear the birds. Now, the Blitz actually bombed this area pretty badly, destroying half of the buildings on the square. In particular, number 35, 36, 37 and 38 were decimated. And the square was forever changed on that May night in 1941. As London woke up, or more likely dared to venture out after a sleepless night, members of the South Place Ethical Society were arriving for their regular Sunday meeting at Conway Hall. Their scheduled speaker for that morning, Dr. C.E.M. Joad, an English philosopher, had this to say. "My first thought as I approached Red Lion Square this morning was, my God, it's gone. And then, to my immense gratification, I saw that although our next-door neighbours had gone, Conway Hall remained. Inevitably, we are a few this morning, and I think the question might be raised whether we should all hold a meeting and go through the forms of our service at all. We judged it right to do so. It is our tradition to meet every Sunday morning, and in the words of propaganda, it would be a victory for Hitler if we stopped doing so." In the 1950s, rebuilding started, and Red Lion Square gained new apartment blocks in the two bombed-out areas on the east side, while Red Lion Passage was lost to memory. But at least we remember Red Lion Passage with the name of the square here, Red Lion Square. And you can just about make out where those bombing happened will be where the more modern buildings are situated. You may or may not know the way that we remember people in London, or where famous people have had their presence felt, is by statues, but it's also by blue plaques. And I'm going to end this tour with a blue plaque. So we're going to go over and see a very famous blue plaque that can be spotted on one of the side streets off of Red Lion Square. John Harrison, 1693 to 1776, inventor of the marine chronometer, lived and died on a house on this site. So not this house. This would have been actually, it's the lovely Art Deco design actually that was put up after the Second World War. But John Harrison's legacy was that he basically gave us Greenwich Meridian time, GMT. It is 8:10 now in London, and that is run off, well, it's British summertime, but the Greenwich Mean Time was invented basically by this very clever guy. I also particularly like this plaque because it's my dad's name, John Harrison. 1985, this statue, the other side of the park, was unveiled. It's Fenner Brockway, and it was unveiled by Michael Foot, the MP. He was an anti-war activist and politician, conscientious objector. And if we go and have a look at him, we may see he has the white feather to show he was a conscientious objector. I always think this is the happiest statue in London as well. Look at him there. Fenner Brockway, President of Liberation, born in November 1888, died 28th of April 1988. This was erected by the GLC, the Greater London Council, in honour of his untiring efforts for peace and racial equality. So he's worth a mention, I think, this man. Lovely place to finish the tour, of course, because I've got the flash of red behind Bertie there. If you want to follow me, join the Facebook group, of course, to find out anything bus related. Let's get the whole world riding on a London bus.